This is the TNW ASR, or Aero Survival Rifle. Now, this is a gun that occupies a strange place in the Canadian market because it's one of the few guns that is explicitly not designed for the Canadian market and is adapted to fit the Canadian market. Now, what do I mean by that? This gun is best used as a backpacking gun or a truck gun or a predator defense gun or something like that in the US as its pistol configuration. Now, in Canada, we don't have AR pistols or rifle pistols. We don't have those. So, in order for it to be adapted to the Canadian market, it has an 18.6 inch barrel to make it non-restricted, because having a shorter barrel for this rifle just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, the whole thing with this rifle is that it can be compacted. Now, of course, you have your stock, which you can compact, and then you have this tab where you push, twist off. I'm not going to do it because of YouTube rules. Push and twist off, and the barrel comes out. And the overall package will be about this long. I'll put a picture of it up on screen about how long it is when you combine the two. And you could reasonably fit that in a medium to large size backpack. However, in most of the calibers that you get it in, it's not really worth it. If you have it in 460 Roland /45 ACP, I'm sure that would be fine. But in my opinion, this is not a gun that I think is best for predator defense. I think if you're going to do predator defense or something like that, probably just avoid PCCs. Just get, a rifle length rifle, a semi-auto rifle, and 5.56 or 7.62 by 39, and take it with you. Or if you want ultra compact and you want to go manual action, get like a MRA Renegade or an SBI light practical carbine, because that thing can be super short. It just feels like, in my opinion, for predator defense, it doesn't quite fit the Canadian market because we don't have their pistol configurations. I mean, we do, but they're not useful because they're going to be restricted. So, this rifle, I'm reviewing it primarily as a range use toy or a budget PCC that someone might want to buy. Now, in that respect, it's actually alright. Now, it's going up against a few different PCCs on the Canadian market. Its main competition is going to be the Smith & Wesson FPC and the Kel-Tec Sub 2K Gen 2 and Gen 3, although the Gen 3 is much better, so we'll just say the Gen 3. It is also going up against, you could say, the High Point Carbine, which, don't buy that. Or, you could also say, on the slightly higher end, the Kodiak K9 or the JR Carbine. So, compared to all of those rifles, it depends on where you buy it. Now, if you're talking new prices, straight up, I'm just going to say right now, don't buy this new. Because in order to make this how you see it here, you have to put more money into it than is necessary, and you're going to end up with something that you could have just bought, like an FX9 or hell, maybe even a Raven 9. So don't buy these new. It's not really worth it. However, if you can find them used, especially with many of the parts already on it, well, then now you're in business. So, first of all, some things about the rifle that you should know. It is a blowback operated rifle, and it does not have a last round hold open. You have to pull this back into the notch, and it will hold there, and then you can kind of HK slap it, kind of. Now, this bolt is very, very, very stiff. You basically have to have it against your shoulder to actuate it, And now that's good for reliability, but if you're a weaker person, I think you're going to have a tough time actuating this, especially if you're giving this to a child after they've used some 22s for a while. This is not the gun for them. Now, the trigger is very interesting. It's not like a lot of triggers I've used in the past, and it's also not quite like an AR trigger either, because it uses a crossbolt safety. Now, the trigger pull is very heavy, and there's a tiny bit of creep, as you can see, and then it breaks. The break itself is quite clean, but to get to the break is not great. Now, the reset is very strong and very crisp, and it's pretty nice. But again, it's heavy. So, it's one of those things where the break is alright. It's not terrible. It's not going to be a competition trigger, but it's certainly usable. The major problem with the trigger for me is actually the shape. It's quite a thin trigger. The length is actually perfectly fine, because when you're holding it with your pistol grip, you're going to be on the trigger. It's fine. It's just it's too thin for me. And of course, I have bigger hands, so it might be fine for some, but it is quite a thin trigger. I wish it was just a tiny bit wider, like maybe 2 millimeters wider on either side. And of course, if you're using this as a survival rifle with gloves, it is quite a small trigger window. With regular, like if you're just wearing, like how I wear golf gloves or baseball gloves, or if you have some shooting gloves, those will be fine. They'll fit in here, no problem. But if you have really heavy winter gloves, that might be a problem, because you might be interfering here. It depends how big your winter gloves are, but that might actually be a problem. Now, this rifle is not ambidextrous at all. You have one mag release, which is here. You have your crossbolt safety, which, in my opinion, is not ambi, because you have to use both hands to actuate it properly. And of course, the charging handle is only on the right side. So it's not ambi at all. If you're a lefty, you can use it. It's just the controls will be a little different. Now, in my opinion, if you're going to use this as a range rifle, you should have the AR handguard attachment, and that is this piece here. Now, this is why I say it's better to buy used, because if you can find one used, well, then you can find this rifle first of all, cheaper, or if you find it with this, you're going to save yourself like $200. And that's without counting the handguard itself, just the AR handguard piece. So I would definitely use an AR handguard, because it is much nicer to hold. Obviously, the colors will mismatch. Some handguards will look good, some won't. One thing to keep in mind is, because there is, about 4 to 5 inches here where the barrel actually starts, you are not going to be getting an 18.6 inch handguard. This one is a 13-inch handguard, as you can see, and it's already right at the tail of the barrel. So keep that in mind. Excuse me. So keep that in mind, and make sure you buy the right handguard if you are going to buy a handguard. Now, in terms of the shooting experience, to my surprise, it was actually quite nice. Now, as you can see, this gun is bare. I have to re-record this video because corrupt footage, which sucks, and it's after I've already taken off all the parts and everything, so I'm not going to do it. What I did have, and you'll see in the shooting footage, is I had a Magpul MOE grip, I had a Magpul stock, I had a Strike Industries Mini King Comp 9, and I had my Fayachi V30, and of course a foregrip. I can't remember which one I had on there. It was either a Fortis Shift or a Magpul MVG or BCM Gunfighter, one of them. But the shooting experience was actually very nice. I think because of the weight of the bolt, it really reduces the recoil that you feel. Now, obviously, a 9mm with an 18.6 inch barrel is not going to have crazy recoil, but it can jump. That's the thing with PCCs. They will jump around. Most of the PCCs I've reviewed have been totally fine, and they don't really jump. Now, on almost all of the PCCs I've reviewed, I've had the Mini King Comp 9. And it does make a difference, if ever so slight. But with this one, I think it made the least difference because of how heavy the bolt and the spring are. This thing was incredibly flat shooting. No problem hitting plates at 40 yards with a red dot on this thing, and consistent hits. It is very easy to hit follow-up shots, which is probably its best characteristic. And of course that works for Predator defense too, because you don't want to miss your shots. The ability to hit quick follow-up shots is really nice. So, what is the purpose of this rifle in Canada? In my opinion, it's best suited as a budget PCC. Now, in my opinion, its main competition is the Sub 2000 and the FPC. And this is different in that it is more traditional. You have a traditional pistol grip, you have a regular magazine release, you have a regular charging handle. You can put regular accessories on this thing, whereas with the Sub 2000 and the FPC, you really can't. It's more like a rifle pistol where the ammo's in the pistol grip, and it's fine for some, but some people maybe just want a standard rifle. And in that case, its main competition is the JR Carbine. Now, there is a JR Carbine takedown model, and now I don't have any first-hand experience with the JR Carbine, right? So I can't say definitively yes or no to one or the other. I think this rifle specifically is at least on par with the JR Carbine. I know some JR Carbines can be a bit more than $1,000, but again, you can find them used for under $1,000. And I'm talking Canadian dollars here. I think this rifle, if you can find one that has all of these parts for under $1,000, it's a steal of a rifle. For a budget PCC. Again, it's not a perfect PCC. Like I mentioned throughout the video, it has some problems. Or some quirks. But it is an excellent budget PCC that you can, especially if you're buying for under $1,000, you should be able to sell it later if you want to buy something nicer and use the money elsewhere. And of course, if you are using this in a Predator defense, backpacking kind of way, it's possible. It's just not ideal in Canada. That's not what I think the purpose of it should be. So, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will have a video on Canadian AR-180s out next. Have a good day.